Well, after another offseason full of change, the Edmonton Elks are hoping to return to glory. Their 2025 campaign begins on the weekend on the road in BC. On the road as well is TSN CFL insider Dave Naylor, who joins us for a preview of the season. Dave, thanks so much for joining us. I know you're very busy ahead of kickoff, but let's talk about the head coach, Mark Killam. He takes over. How much of a difference is that going to make?
Well, I think the whole organization is different, whether right from, of course, ownership compared to 12 months ago. You've got a new general manager who's the old general manager, and Ed Hervey, who's come back. And he's hired Mark Killam, who is a guy who CFL fans would associate with Calgary because he was a special teams coordinator there for many years, started as a strength and conditioning coach. I think of Mark and I picture him in red and white. But, of course, he's an Edmonton guy. He was a U of A guy. And now he's getting his opportunity to be, for the first time, a head coach. So, I mean, this is a complete overhaul of this organization, really from top to bottom. And I think there's really been a concerted effort to repatriate and make this an Edmonton team. I mean, Ed Hervey is from Los Angeles, but he's lived in Edmonton forever. He was an Edmonton player. His first general manager job was in Edmonton. I say Mark Killam, an Edmonton, a U of A guy. Chris Morris, who's the team president, was the coach at the University of Alberta, played for the Eskimos. You go on and on and on. I think there's really the effort to make this a more stable organization. I mean, if there's one thing that's characterized the Elks over the last few years, it's been change, constant turnover. Coaches, management, and especially players, they're looking for some stability, and I think better results on the field from that stability.
How important is Edmonton being good to the rest of the league?
Well, it's funny. I used to say this, that in my time covering the Canadian Football League, which goes back more than 3 decades, that the only team I had ever, that in all the years I covered the league, the only team that had never had a financial crisis was Edmonton. Well, they had one, and that's what forced the change from public ownership to private ownership. And I think, when I think of what Edmonton represents to the CFL kind of over the years I've covered the league, it was stability. You had teams that were up and down all over the place. You had teams that were up and down in attendance. You had teams that were up and down in finances. But Edmonton was kind of consistently, every year their team was good. Their stands were full. You didn't have to worry about the Edmonton franchise. And that changed in the last 5 years. So, yeah, I think just in a 9-team league, when you have a team that goes from being a model of stability to a model of inconsistency and instability, that really does have an effect on the entire league.
Since 2019, this team has not made the playoffs. Is Trey Ford the guy to lead them back to the postseason and to restore some glory?
I can't answer that, but I can tell you the only way they will know is to give him some leash and some opportunity. And to put this in some context, because I know there's been a lot of criticism about Trey Ford not getting more opportunity with Edmonton up until now. But Tre Ford is a guy who played his university football in Canada at the University of Waterloo. And if you look at the history of quarterbacks transitioning from Canadian university to the CFL, there's not a long list. I mean, Trey would be the first one in more than a half century, where somebody's handed him the keys to the offense and said, "You're our guy." So there was some development that needed to take place. But ultimately, you got to kind of let him run with it a little bit. I think that the challenge for him has been, in for 2 starts, down for 1, back for 1, down for 3. You're our guy. No, you're not. And I think you got a real signal from the organization this offseason that they didn't say, well, we'll see what's going to happen at training camp. No, in the offseason, they announced Tre Ford is our guy. They want to show that the organization is confident behind him. They want to show him that he's going to have some leash, some opportunity to make some mistakes. He doesn't have to be perfect. That's what you get with young quarterbacks. But they want to tap the high side of a player who has the ability to make his special plays. I mean, his athleticism has translated from the Canadian university level right up to the CFL. He's proven his playmaking. Just really, it comes with consistency and experience, and the only way he's going to get that is by playing.
All right, it's an exciting time at the start of the season, Dave. We appreciate your preview. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
The Elks are in Vancouver to take on the Lions on Saturday at 8. You can catch that all on TSN. Home opener is Thursday the 19th.